Good evening. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast. We got the Bills taking a bad overtime loss, 6 straight overtime losses now for the Bills as they lose to the Eagles in a game of the year candidate. Jaguars outlasting the Texans' last-minute drive on a missed 59-yard field goal. A tanking update and top three, bottom three here on the Fumblerooski podcast.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. This is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown!
You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio and Secret Weapon Consulting. I'm Chris Costich, and with me, Adam Wright, the founder. Adam, how was your Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Got plenty of food. It was a good Thanksgiving, Always good to eat some turkey and then take a long nap afterwards. And, that nap actually saved me from being able to do dishes.
Nice.
I swore I was going to get to it. Just laid down on my beanbag chair for like 2 minutes. Next thing you know, it's 11 o'clock and I just slept through everything and everyone's gone.
Nice.
So,
That's
pretty nice.
That is pretty nice. Yeah, my Thanksgiving was pretty well. I mean, I had to do the dishes this week or this past weekend with my cousins. That's the rule that we have in my family. The adults do the cooking. Then the kids, have to do the dishes after.
Kids table.
Yeah, there's no kids table though. No kids table. We're
just
all
the kids cleaning duties.
Yeah. But we ended up breaking like this gravy pour as well. We only broke the handle, and I guess you could say that it was my fault because I'm the first in line washing everything. So I guess I should probably take the blame for that.
Yeah. Oh well. That's what they get for letting the kids do everything.
Yeah, right. I mean, I did nothing besides watch football and drink wine, so.
Hell yeah. That's the American dream, baby.
Hell yeah. We'll get right into it. Jaguars outlasting a last-minute drive from the Texans. Pretty solid game. I said it on Friday's episode. Expect Jacksonville to come out with a little bit of extra fire, just like the Packers did. Packers lost at home, got embarrassed at home. They came back, embarrassed Detroit at home, and here we are. Same thing happening, except obviously Jaguars not embarrassing Houston at home, but Jacksonville coming out with a little bit extra fire. Back-to-back weeks for Trevor Lawrence with pretty solid performances, and both of them coming out with a win, and a huge win at that. Jaguars they have a pretty firm hold of the AFC South at the moment.
Well, this game was huge for the Jaguars because you had Houston, who was hot on the heels of the Jaguars. So to come out with a win was huge. And now they have a 2-game lead over everyone else in their division. And they can kind of just coast the rest of the way. Their only real challenging game they have left is the Ravens. Besides that, they have the Bengals without Joe Burrow. They have the Browns, the Buccaneers, the Panthers, the Titans, all pretty winnable games. I could only see them realistically losing maybe 2 of these games. They may not lose it at all. So this is huge for the Jaguars. They're going to get a high seed. They're going to win their division. So this was a big game for them.
Yeah, it really was. And they got a firm hold of the lead. And like you said, if anything, they lose to the Ravens. But at that point, what's their record? Got 3 losses. So 4 losses, 13-4. You're set for at least the 2 seed, depending on how the Ravens do the rest of the way. Maybe even the 1 seed.
It's possible.
It's
going to be tough, but
it's very possible considering Kansas City doesn't have a great receiving core, but that defense is still really good enough to help them win games.
Right. And the Chiefs, I will say, as this season has gone on, their funk has continued to get worse and worse. They looked great in the beginning of the year, and it looked like it was just business as usual. But now it's kind of the defense is picking up the slack. Defense is getting a little exhausted, and Patrick Mahomes can only do so much. I don't want to blame him at all, because the way he has been able to do more with less in these last couple of years since they traded away Tyreek Hill. It's been incredible. And if they could just get this guy a number one weapon like he once did with Tyreek Hill. I know he had Travis Kelce. Get him another one, because you can't waste this guy's career.
And a point that I heard earlier, the Chiefs, a point that I heard was that the Chiefs kind of end up doing the right thing in terms of trading Tyreek away. So then they have these picks so they can set themselves up to use those draft picks for potential really good wide receiver again.
They haven't done that.
That's the problem.
Yeah. They drafted Mecole Hardman and they drafted Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
Neither one of those guys he wasn't on the team. He's back, but there's a reason he wasn't on there to begin with. And Rashee Rice, he's been fine, but he's not a number one guy. He's nowhere near what Tyreek Hill was.
No. Going to the Texans side of things, though, CJ Stroud had his first real bad half of football the other week, and this week didn't really seem to faze him at all. 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, had a rushing touchdown. My problem here is that he got sacked 4 times, and the defense didn't really do much else to help either. I mean, Trevor Lawrence put up 369 yards on the Houston defense, no sacks. I mean, not to put the entire blame on the defense, but this is kind of a worrisome thing maybe at this rate, especially looking at some of the other top teams in the conference having really good defenses, and maybe the Texans aren't going to be able to keep up with that.
Yeah, look, the Texans are ahead of schedule. Like, I don't think any of us saw this team being a playoff caliber franchise this early on in their rebuild. Like, they just drafted CJ Stroud. They got Will Anderson on the side. They didn't expect Tank Dell to become a wide receiver 1. They did not expect that. And Nico Collins comes out of nowhere. He's their lead receiver right now. A lot of the stuff is unexpected. So for them to take a few steps back, that's okay. And they might still make the playoffs. Like, if you look at this playoff picture, do you really think Cleveland is going to hold their spot at the 6th seed? I don't think so. And
No.
I wouldn't trust the Steelers either. I trust Houston more, which says a lot more about where this young team is and how they've matured so quickly. So I'm not too worried. If they don't make the playoffs, they don't make the playoffs. But their expectations weren't high to begin with. So it's little to lose, everything to gain at this point.
Yeah, and honestly, looking at the schedule, they could potentially even win out. I mean, their toughest game, probably the Broncos, and that's next week.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I say that is because the Broncos are on a 5-game winning streak. They are hot. Probably the hottest team in the league at the moment, maybe. Debatably. Probably not.
Currently. Let's see this team face some solid competition. But I think
that they're going to face all competition in Houston now. This is going to be a game to watch, because the Broncos are, like I said, they're right on that line. Both Houston and Denver are right on that line. Could get them closer to a 5th seed, and the Texans are playing the Browns, who you were just saying they're going to go on a downhill path where they're not going to make the playoffs, and especially since with DTR and concussion protocol, they're probably going to be looking at being on their 4th quarterback for the season.
Yeah, probably. And even if Denver loses to Houston, which I would lean towards, that's probably what's going to happen. They still have a very real path at 10-7. So they could still make the playoffs either way. We could very well see Denver and Houston both making the playoffs. and sneaking in where none of us saw either of these teams making it earlier on in the year. I mean, just like 5 minutes ago, the Broncos were going to be a lottery team. They were going to be in contention for the number 1 overall pick. Now, suddenly they could be a playoff team. And now we look at this team a lot differently going into next year. I wouldn't bet on them this year in this year's postseason, but at least these are some encouraging steps, especially since they just traded for Russell Wilson, who's finally looking like the Russell Wilson of old.
Yeah, Russell Wilson is pretty high. He didn't perform all that amazingly last week or this past week in general. I mean, what do you have, like 125 yards or something?
He had somewhere around there.
134 yards and a touchdown. He still looked good. It doesn't mean he played bad. It just was one of those games where they didn't really need to rely on him. The rushing attack, 169 yards on the ground. I mean, yeah. And on top of that, defense was forcing a lot of turnovers too. 5 fumbles for Cleveland. 3 of them they lost. They got 4 sacks on PJ Walker as well once he got into the game for DTR. Defense, like I said this before, defense, huge turnaround for them. But my only problem is that they also haven't been facing the greatest offenses either. Besides Buffalo, but that was with Ken Dorsey.
Also, it's a game script thing. They've spent the entirety of this game ahead, so there's no need to pass when you're basically just coasting and trying to run the clock out. Right? That's for the running game to do. So the ability to beat a team in many different ways is a good sign that you're a competitive team. So I don't want to get too far off of the Jaguars Texans game, but Broncos are looking nice.
Yeah. I don't really have much else to say about that. We pretty much covered what we needed to cover for Jaguars Texans, to be honest, unless you had anything to add.
No, I got nothing to add. This is going to be an exciting stretch for both teams. So very, very exciting stuff for the entire AFC South. So it's going to be fun.
Especially with the Colts kind of in the mix, but they'll probably get on a downward path as well. But we'll save that for when we get to the end of the season. They're still around for it. Eagles coming back for the second straight week, an overtime win against the Bills. The Buffalo Bills are now 0-6 in their last 6 overtime games. Eagles, new Super Bowl favorite.
I mean, at this point, you kind of have to look at them as the favorites. I mean, the other team that made the Super Bowl last year, they haven't looked the best. And I believe over our league's history, there have only been 8 times where a team has lost the Super Bowl and then gone back. Only 3 have lost and gone back to win it. So it is virtually unheard of that a team loses the Super Bowl and then goes a step higher the very next year. I know it happened recently with the Patriots, but that's such an anomaly. It never happens. But this Eagles team does look like the type who can bounce back from adversity, and they're beating teams in a lot of different ways. I'm still a little shaky on them. I'm a little iffy because I'm not sure about how their passing game is going to play, but they do have the ability to throw it, and we know about what they can do running it. So maybe let's see how they do. I think this is, if there's any team that's going to do it, I think it's this Eagles team.
I'm a little concerned about the secondary of Philly, but regardless, I have a lot of confidence in them to make another run at it this year. I just don't really see it. I think that the 49ers are still going to be my Super Bowl favorite over Philly this year. I feel like just San Fran's just more of a complete team, and I think the lack of passing from or lack thereof throwing for Jalen Hurts is kind of going to end up biting them in the butt later on. But, that's still a good defense regardless. That's still a really good D-line for Philly. The Eagles still have a good run game. DeAndre Swift out of nowhere. What a great pickup DeAndre Swift has been, by the way. We don't really talk about him nearly as much as we probably should be.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's ever been an abilities thing with him. We all know that he has the talent. It's always been a health thing with him over in Detroit. And so far in Philly, he's been healthy, and therefore he's been one of the best running backs in the league. I believe he's one of the top rushers in terms of yards this season. So if he's able to stay healthy along with Rashad Penny, then that's a really, really good running game to add with Jalen Hurts in that option offense.
Yeah, and when DeAndre Swift first got traded to the Eagles and they let Miles Sanders go, I was a little like, well, what's the difference here? You just sent away one injury prone back for another injury prone back that I feel like Miles Sanders at the time could have been very comparable to DeAndre Swift, but they're both not healthy enough to really make comparisons. So that's kind of just what it felt like. But, now with Miles Sanders not getting any attention in Carolina and DeAndre Swift is just acting like a world beater running with the football right now. Obviously, Billy made the right move.
Yeah.
For the Bills.
Oh boy.
As much as I give Josh Allen a lot of crap, I'd say this was more of a all-around. Josh Allen is not the reason why this team lost it on Sunday.
Yeah.
That's for sure. First, we all thought that when Ken Dorsey got fired, they just got the scapegoat out. In the last two games, Josh Allen has basically been the reason why they've been winning, or at least on Sunday's case, keeping them in the game and sending them to overtime. Obviously, the Philly Eagle, the field goal, that's one thing, but Josh Allen drove them down the field, got the touchdown to make it happen.
Look, he's still an elite quarterback. Like, I think he is having a down year. There's no two ways about it. But I think a lot of it is really not his fault. His offensive line in the past year and a half has been putrid, like actually terrible. And I think we put too much blame on Josh Allen and not enough on that offensive line. On top of that, I don't think the coaching is very good. Sean McDermott, I think he deserves being in question as he has been this year. He's okay, but I still think he's not that good.
There's been so many coaching gaffes from him this year. Oh my God. It's unreal.
Yeah. And he is an okay coach. He's okay. He's part of the reason the Bills made this turnaround in the last few years. But on top of that, the defense. This defense has been terrible. And it's not their fault either. It's because of these injuries. So I do feel a little bit for Josh Allen. I just think he's one of those quarterbacks where he's able to overcome some of your weaknesses, but he does turn the ball over a lot. And if you don't have the best offensive line, if you don't have a defense that can make up for those turnovers that Josh Allen creates, then you're going to have some issues with Josh Allen at quarterback. But he's still a very good quarterback, as he has shown the last two games. So it's just a bad year, man. This Bills team, they need to look towards next year.
I think the problem with the Bills is that they have such a hard time closing games out. If it's like a 2-score game, that's one thing. They got a 2-score game with 10 minutes left, no problem. But when it's a 1-score game, 10 minutes left in the ball game or going into overtime, you just can't trust them. They're just not built for that kind of adversity, it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's definitely something that they need to look at as well. But
to your coaching point as well, it's as little as Sean McDermott calling a timeout when the Eagles are rushing onto the field for that last field goal of the game, or Jake Elliott's field goal to send it to overtime. You got to let that be at that point. And even in overtime, they're not setting enough pressure, and they're letting Jalen Hurts just beat him with his legs. That's a huge coaching thing right there. Soft zone has been the death of the Bills, and that's what they keep on running for some reason, laying games, and that's what keeps beating them.
Yeah. Well, like that was a boneheaded move, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it's a 59-yard field goal. They're rushing into it. It doesn't look like they have their stuff together. And then you give them time to collect themselves with that timeout. Talk about shooting yourself in the foot. I get that you're trying to ice the kicker, but I feel like that's one of the few scenarios you don't want to do that. You're rushing into a long field goal. They're probably not even thinking about what they're doing right now. When you give them time to collect themselves, you're just making it worse for yourself.
I reference this all the time when like you're in baseball and you're thinking about the analytics and how you shouldn't be thinking about the analytics for a lot of certain situations. Like icing the kicker is analytics thing. It's not necessarily an analytics thing, but percentage wise, like you should ice the kicker if you can. But you also got to have a feel for the game too. Like instances like that, you shouldn't be calling a timeout. If your pitcher's got a one hitter through 7, maybe you shouldn't pull him out. It's the little things like having a disconnect from the feel of the game is what kills a lot of teams.
Right.
There
There's
anything
really
you
not
wanted to
enough.
add?
I mean, there's really not enough evidence that icing the kicker works, and we don't really need to get into it
No, we
because we're
don't.
kind of
But
just talking about the Bills. But
yeah,
like,
but like I was just
yeah,
saying like example wise, like I feel like a lot of times like Sean McDermott just is disconnected from the feel of the game. That was kind of just my point of it all.
right. I agree.
But anything you wanted to add before we move on?
Not really. We pretty much we've been on the Bills quite enough to cover it. So
yeah, I don't want to talk about the Bills anymore either. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, tanking update. A lot of big losses here in the top 5.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. This is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio and Secret Weapon Consulting. Chris Costich, Adam Wright. Time for the tanking update. Top 5 picks. The projected top 5 picks right now. Carolina, which is obviously going to go to Chicago. Arizona, New England, Chicago, and Washington. New England getting themselves as the number 3 pick. They didn't move at all, right? They were number 3 last week as well. I just wanted to double check that.
New England was number 3.
Yeah.
And they are right now. But if they lose out, and so does Arizona, because Arizona has not had their bye yet, if they both lose out, New England gets it.
So, anyways, New England, despite the terrible loss to the Giants, the only thing that really changed was the Giants and Washington kind of getting flipped in and out. There was a moment where New England had the 2 spot until Arizona lost. But Carolina, still the worst team in the league, debatably New England at this point, in my opinion. Giants no longer in the top 5. Commanders taking over that spot, even with Chicago, Washington, and New York all at 4 and 8. And Chicago picking up a big win last night as well on Monday Night Football against the Vikings, forcing 4 turnovers, 4 interceptions on Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, so they still have 2 top 5 picks, but if the Bears have a solid roster. So if they can potentially win a few more games out of this, and they're lucky that they have Carolina, who is the worst team in all of football.
Yeah.
But the biggest point to make out of this Tankathon update is that both the top 2 picks currently Arizona and Carolina, they both made changes recently. Arizona brought back Kyler Murray off the ACL tear, and Carolina fired their coach, Frank Reich. And Carolina, I mean, they have nothing to play for. They're not playing for that number 1 pick because it's the Bears pick right now. So they're trying to win more games. And that may play them out of the number 1 overall pick. Same with Arizona at number 2. If they keep on playing Kyler Murray, they may find themselves winning a couple of games here. And New England, on the other hand, does not make any changes. No matter how bad Mac Jones played, they will not start anybody else. They just cut Will Grier, their 3rd string quarterback. Bailey Zappi, they seem to just hate a lot. So who are they going to start? And Malik Cunningham, he keeps being in and out of waivers. So they refuse to make any changes to their starting lineup, to their starting quarterback, to their coaching. Belichick still hasn't been fired. Leads me to believe that this team might be intentionally trying to tank.
I mean, Bill's the GM, so that's where you cross the line of GM and coach. The GM is your head coach. I wouldn't be surprised if Bill was to do something like that, but at the end of the day, too, like, who is better than Mac Jones on that depth chart? Like, the point is, like, the Patriots are still going to be competitive. Everyone's fighting for their lives, their jobs, and everyone's out there to win. No one is actually intentionally trying to tank, which is why Mac Jones is probably going to continue to be the starter unless they just finally throw in Zappy now. But Zappy doesn't give you any more of a chance to win than Mac Jones does.
Yeah, but I don't think it's so much about who is better right now because they've both been bad. More just trying to at least make changes so that you could send the message to your locker room that you are trying to win. If you keep on doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results, that's a definition of insanity.
Yeah.
So if you keep on sending the message to the locker room that we're just going to keep doing what we're doing and we hope we win, you're not fooling anyone there. Everyone knows you're not going to win that way if you keep doing this. I mean, you just lost to the Giants. That's about as rock bottom as it gets. The team that is down to their backup quarterback. They don't have their starting QB who also sucks. And you just lost to them?
Yeah. And worse of all, you lose because your rookie kicker missed the field goal when you could have just kept old ass Nick Folk, who's been automatic since he joined the Patriots back in 2020, and he's been automatic ever since.
Yeah.
Like, I can only think of 3 times when he missed a field goal. He was unbelievable. And you got rid of him, continued success in Tennessee, and we have this bum ass Chad Ryland.
It's about as bad as it gets, man.
Honestly, I'm just more irritated because I bet that the game would go to overtime, and I would have won $70 if Chad Ryland hit that kick.
Now it's really getting it's getting personal now that we're doing
But like you said, Chicago could play themselves out of the top 5. That 4, 5, 6 spot is going to be very interesting. And Arizona could easily also play themselves out of the top 2 or top 3 spots.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just a pick and choose, like, which ones you think that these teams might steal. I mean, I can expect Chicago to probably steal at least one more game. Maybe. Who else they got on their schedule? Let me check. Lions next week, Browns, Cardinals, Falcons, Packers. I feel like they could steal one from the Browns. They could probably just as well beat the Cardinals. Cardinals could also just as easily beat the Bears. So there's your tanking update right there. Bears, Cardinals, week 13, 14. Bears, Cardinals, week 15.
Yeah.
Wait. Yeah, week 15. Yeah, that's all I got though. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, not really. I think we're ready to move on.
Yeah. All right. Take a quick break. Come back. We'll go over the Week 12 top 3, bottom 3.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. This is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast. Chris Costich, Adam Wright. Week 12, top 3, bottom 3. There wasn't really a lot of teams that really stood out as a top 3, bottom 3, so I decided to leave out honorable mentions for this week. That being said, top 3, Eagles got a big overtime win. Jake Elliott with an impressive 60-yard kick through the rain. One that will go down in Philly lore, and keeping themselves atop the top of the NFC right now. Steelers getting a win, keeping themselves in that wild card spot in the AFC, in the first 400-yard offensive game in 58 games. And if you want to know how many games that is or how long that is, that was when Matt Canada first got hired. Jaguars.
Coincidence, I think not.
What was that?
I said coincidence, I think not.
I think not. What a bum. What a bum.
Continue.
Jaguars. Big revenge game over the Texans, and they got firm control over the AFC South now, and it's their division to lose now. Thoughts from the peanut gallery?
All right. I would say this is all pretty good. Yeah. The Eagles, they gained the win. That was huge because that was a very near upset. The Eagles said, call an ambulance in overtime after being down. They pulled out that gun and they said, but not for me. Jalen Hurts saves the day. That's a big one. That would have been a good meme for us to post.
Yeah, it would have. Well, you had that ready for the Bills.
I did have it ready for the Bills. I could have changed it up, but I didn't think about it until the next day.
Yeah.
But oh well. We'll think about our next viral meme soon that people will probably steal.
I was hoping the Trailer Park Boys Bills meme would hit, but oh well.
We'll get another one.
Yeah.
Anyways, the Jaguars getting that win was huge. Like that is about as big as it gets for any team this week. Because if they lose, then I'm pretty sure the Texans have the lead in that division. So they go from barely being in the playoffs to now all of a sudden you're in contention for a top pick, or excuse me, for a top seed in the playoff picture. Like you put yourself back into that position with a reasonably soft schedule coming up. So that's huge. That is huge for the Jaguars. It's smooth sailing from here on out. So I like this list. Good list.
Thank you. I try my best.
Of course.
Bottom 3. Panthers. Worst team in the league. They're just doing nothing to help themselves from having to give the Bears the first overall pick and sticking it to them. And they just stink. Lions. You got embarrassed on Thanksgiving to Jordan Love and the Packers. Vikings. Josh Dobbs. 4 interceptions. The Josh Dobbs Linsanity run is over. And you only got 10 points on the Bears.
Yeah, it wasn't short enough.
And the Bears beat you.
Yeah.
Thoughts from you, Adam?
Oh, that Josh Dobbs Linsanity run was annoying.
It was
Everyone was
awesome.
saying
Come on, it was awesome.
it was fun until people started calling the Vikings a Super Bowl contender or an actual playoff team. I get it. It was a cool run, but this is the issue that I had with Ryan Fitzpatrick during his Tampa days or any day at all when he would play well, or Nick Foles during that Super Bowl run. Everyone all of a sudden says this is a great team. This is an awesome quarterback until they start to show their true colors again.
Well, yeah, that's just recency bias.
Exactly.
Football is the biggest thing for recency bias.
And that's what I'm saying. I think it got way, way out of hand with Josh Dobbs. I get it. He played well, but now we're seeing what this Vikings team truly is without Kirk Cousins. Not that they were anything special with him, but it's significantly worse with the next guy up, which is Josh Dobbs. But they still have some good stuff going. They need a new quarterback, but we'll see how they do. The line.
Sorry, I was just about some breaking news, actually. If you're a Vikings fan, good news. Justin Jefferson has been activated off of IR.
Okay, so we got our Jordan Addison. We got Justin Jefferson. KJ Osborne. TJ Hawkinson.
And on top of that, more time to get healthy. They're on the bye week this week.
Yeah, sure. That's probably why they did it, so that they could give him some time to get healthy. But that's going to be something to look at, is his contract situation, because I believe he's entering a contract year after this season, which is going to be interesting. They're probably going to franchise tag him. Why do I even bother? But if they trade him, what if he decides I want to go and join my two former teammates in Cincinnati? Wouldn't that be?
I feel like that might be a long shot. Let's pump the brakes on that.
I'm just trying to think to make some storylines here. That's our goal as reporters.
That's a fun storyline. While it may be, but let's think about it this way. I mean, Bengals need to use that money to reload.
They do,
and to save enough of it so they can sign. Or wait, Joe Burrow just got. Did he get an extension?
Burrow got an extension. Yeah. Jamar Chase still needs
he's all set. But
Jamar Chase still needs it. T. Higgins still needs it. Tyler Boyd still needs it.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying is, to hell with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and let them go. Trade for Justin Jefferson, and then there you go. You're set.
That'd be a ridiculous offense.
That would be unbelievable.
If Joe Burrow could stay healthy, that would be an insane offense.
Yeah, if the Bengals don't get him killed first. But back to your list.
Yeah.
I was just getting to the Lions. Okay. The Lions, they lost the most momentum in this game. Like, that's about as bad as it gets. You lose to one of the worst teams in your division, one of the worst teams in the conference, in embarrassing fashion. I mean, yes, it was by one score, but don't let that final score fool you. For most of that game, they were down double digits.
They're down like 3 scores most of that game, it felt like.
So, upsets happen. So let's see how things go later on. Maybe they still are a Super Bowl contender. Maybe they're not. But that was a bad way to lose. And Jared Goff looked really bad in this game. How many picks did he throw? Did he throw 3 picks?
No, he didn't throw any picks, but he fumbled the ball a ton.
Yeah. That's about as bad as it gets. The quarterback that they decided that they believed in. Yeah, he didn't throw any picks. Statistically, without the fumbles, he actually looks pretty good. 2 touchdowns, 332 yards. But that's because they were playing from behind the entire game.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were doing our Thanksgiving preview, we expected this to be a win for the Lions. We did not see a scenario where they win.
No.
So this is really bad for the Lions. But
I mean, I did say that the Packers are going to come out with a little bit of fire, but
I don't think we expected a win.
Not like this.
We expected maybe a 1-score game. They give us scare. I'd understand that because this is a young Packers team. To come out with a win in this fashion, being up double digits most of the game, the only reason the final score was what it was because of a couple garbage time touchdowns. Other than that, how the hell did you pull this out?
Yeah.
Something seems a little off with Jared Goff.
I think that, I mean, you can even look at the Chicago game. I mean, Detroit only won by 5, and they were down for most of that game too. It felt like. I mean, going into the fourth quarter, they were down. Jared Goff had 3 interceptions, 4 turnovers total for Detroit, and they got saved because Chicago is Chicago at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, then again, I gave this treatment to Brock Purdy. You know, it's just a bad little stretch.
Yeah, but this is 7 turnovers in 2 games.
Yeah, that is bad.
That's terrible.
But I gave the same treatment to Brock Purdy. I'm gonna give the same treatment to Jared Goff. I think this is just gonna blow over. Give it another week or 2. If he's still playing this bad in 2 weeks, then we can get on the train of, oh no, the Lions are in trouble.
They might, but I mean, they have the schedule. Like, it's not like they're going to be battle tested down the stretch here. Like, they don't have anything to prove. They just need. I mean, this schedule is just it's really easy for them. Saints, Bears, Broncos, Vikings, Cowboys, Vikings again.
Yeah.
Like, if they win those, we're not going to be saying, oh, look out for the Lions. We're going to be saying, okay, you beat the teams that you should be beating, but you lost to some teams in fraudulent fashion.
But at the same time, too, 1, 2, 3 more NFC North games that you can get another division scare right there, just like we got the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's possible.
I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying that the best that they could do is show that they are what they are.
Yeah.
The worst that they could do is make themselves look worse. What I'm saying is there's nothing to gain here. It's just everything to lose. You have an easy schedule. You should not be losing games against the Packers.
That's why I mean, like, if this starts going on for next week against the Saints and the week after that against the Bears again, then we should be kind of sounding the alarm.
Right. So in that case, I think we agree on a lot more than we think we do.
Yeah, than we're actually sounding like right now.
we're just arguing just to argue, just because we're on a talk show.
We're arguing just space.
Yeah, we're yelling at a cloud right now.
If anyone was confused, we were both agreeing that they have an easy enough schedule where this shouldn't happen, but I expanded and said, give it 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Moving on, we'll get right into it. The Fumblerooski fan box. Hold on. Didn't have the script ready to go. I'm sorry. Fumblerooski fan box. We post a question filter on our Instagram every Monday, and you can respond with hot takes, questions, and more. We will discuss it and give you a shout out on our podcast. Respond to next week's fan box question to be featured on our show. Wasn't really a question this week, but fan box for this week. I miss him, but it's an NFL player. I don't know if anyone has seen the meme, or at least the football or just sports memes in general, of people doing that and responding with throwback players. Adam, you want me to read them off, or do you want to?
Yeah, we could. Let's go back and forth.
Okay.
I'll start.
All right.
Johnny Zaccaro, he said Le'Veon Bell. Now, this is a guy who I miss the player. I do not miss the person.
Yeah.
Guy was a douchebag. He skipped out on an entire season because he wanted more money. Eventually got traded to the Jets, where he did not live up to the money he was paid. On top of that, he could not stop breaking the rules. I'm pretty sure he had a PED suspension, and he also had a suspension for marijuana.
Yeah.
Now here's my issue. I have no issue with marijuana smokers. If you want to do that, that's all fine and good. What I hate is the crowd that believes that because they disagree with the rules, that they don't apply to them.
Yeah.
We see this in football rules all the time, where a bad rule is enforced, and because it's enforced, all of their fans say, "Oh, that should be a catch. I hate the rules, so therefore they don't apply to me, and they should have won the game." The Jesse James catch, which is what I'm referring to, the Dez Bryant catch. They weren't catches by the rules, but their fan base doesn't care. They believe it's a catch, so therefore it's a catch to them.
Yeah.
Same way with these rules that he used to break. He believes that because he thinks it's not okay for marijuana to be outlawed, that he can do it himself. It's still against the rules. Like, it's just the act of, like, I can go all day with that.
I would blame Le'Veon Bell for the running back market situation that we are currently in as well, because of that whole situation on top of him going to the Jets and just sucking afterwards.
Incredible player.
Let's move on to the actual player. Le'Veon Bell, the player, rushed very differently, had amazing patience, waited for the hole to open up, and the way he would accelerate through it. That was a running back right there.
Yeah, that's a running back. Trusting his offensive line. You could see when he would be looking around, he would get the ball, he'd look for a little bit, wait, then goes right through the hole, and then next thing you know, he's gone.
Extremely shifty too. Oh my God. The video of the Jaguars D lineman AFC Championship game. And it looks like he's got him at the line of scrimmage, and then he's like, oh!
Yeah.
Snapped him in half.
All right. Let's move on before we get too aroused by this guy.
Whoa. Chill out with that. Don't have to say that.
Just telling it how it is.
All right, buddy. Johnny Coletta. The late Demaryius Thomas. Rest in peace.
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos. Man, he was a dog.
He was pretty good. Listen, I don't want to speak. I'm just talking about him as a player. He was slightly soft. All I remember is that one time where he had a catch and somebody actually stripped it from him. And it was, do you even call it a strip? Do you call that what do you call that? So there's strip fumbles, like strip sacks. Is this like a strip pick?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, he had a ball.
I would have just said that he just bullied him, but
there's that too. He was an incredible player, though. That's one way to put it. And as a Patriots fan, I definitely was upset that they got him once his play had fallen off. I would have loved to have him in his prime with Brady throwing him passes. That would have been cool.
I know. It's tough. I still have Madden 20, and I started up a new career mode, and just starting from that last season in New England, I am the backup quarterback, by the way, taking over after Brady retires, and Madden has Demaryius Thomas going for like another 2 or 3 seasons. I made him into a god. It was great.
Man,
it was awesome.
I do, but rest in peace, Demaryius Thomas. We can talk all we want about what he was like as a player, but great person. I mean, we could talk about a lot of players who were really good at football but were terrible people off the field, and Demaryius Thomas was a good dude.
Yeah.
All right. Ian Mulhern said Luke Kuechly. Now, there's a name we have not heard in a long time.
Will probably go down as one of the smartest players of all time, too.
In thinking about him on the field versus off it, the way he dressed, his glasses, kind of reminds you a little bit of Clark Kent, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Clark Kent versus Superman. What a badass.
Yeah. Hard nose hitter, too. I mean, man, probably debatably the best middle linebacker of the 2010s.
Yeah, one of the best off-ball linebackers we will ever see. And we could say it sucks that he retired fairly early. It was about age 30.
Something like that.
I mean but
Boston College legend.
A lot of players quit too late, to the point where they just can't function once they step off the field, right? And then the rest of their life is kind of subpar. They're crippled, their brain is mush, Luke Kuechly went out on a high note, so I can at least respect that.
Yeah,
We
he
can't say
went
we don't
out.
miss him though.
He went out like a couple years after that Super Bowl,
Yeah.
something like that.
All right.
Oh, this one's mine.
Yeah.
Chase McGinty. He had 2. LaShawn McCoy and Darren Sproles. Shady. Man.
The Eagles have had some good running backs over the years.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, Brian Westbrook, LaShawn McCoy, DeAndre Swift. Even had LeGarrette Blount on that squad as well at one point.
Miles Sanders.
I'm not even going to give Miles Sanders his flowers. Screw him.
Why?
Nah, every time I had Miles Sanders on my fantasy team, he sucked.
Right.
I
mean,
him.
in real life, though.
I won't even count him. But why am I blanking? Jay Ajayi, but that was kind of at the end of his career. I'm thinking of one guy. I can't think of his name.
I can't think of him either.
He was like, I think he was also on that Super Bowl winning team, maybe before. Besides the point.
Yeah.
But LaShawn McCoy, absolute dog. Top 5 running back of the 2010s. It's too bad that Chip Kelly had to be the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Remember when we actually thought he was like a good coach?
He's a good college coach. And that's it.
Yeah, good in college. Then he went to the Eagles, didn't do anything. Went to the 49ers, poisoned the well there too. He just didn't do enough there.
Just another example of a college coach not cutting it in the NFL.
Yep.
Darren Sproles, though, one of the best returners of all time.
Oh, boy, was shifty. He was undersized. He was a little guy, but he could hit hard. Yeah. And he was hard to catch, which I guess goes hand in hand with being shifty and being hard to catch, because if there's less of you, then you're a smaller target. Also, you're going to be a lot more, like when you're smaller, it's easier for you to distribute weight and move between the tackles. So, yeah.
You're up.
Right. All right. Patrick Williver. He said Jeremy Hill. That is such a throwback name. And the fact that people I believe that only Bengals fans remember this guy, because
I remember him.
You remember him as an afterthought, but this is one of those players who he had that one good year when he first joined the league, and after that he hasn't done anything since. I mean, it was a quick fall from grace for this guy. But this guy, I mean, if you remember that one year, and this could also be the same, could be applied to Andy Dalton when he first entered the league, who was actually pretty good when he first started out, right? All of a sudden, he's forgotten in minutes, which kind of stinks, but we can at least remember when they were both good.
It's true.
The Red Rifle, baby.
I don't really have much else to say about Jeremy Hill, to be honest. He was good for while he was around.
Yeah. All right, you're up.
Nate Sloat. He said Fitzy, and we're just going to assume that he said Larry Fitzgerald, but I mean, we can also say Ryan Fitzpatrick. He was fun. They were both fun to watch, but Larry Fitzgerald, man, one of the greatest playoff performers of all time. I think he had more tackles than he did drop passes. Unreal.
Man, that guy did not drop passes. Also, in the rare occasions that he did make the playoffs, he lit it up.
Yeah.
That dude lit it up. And he can thank Carson Palmer for his late resurgence, because Carson Palmer joined that team. They were perennially a bottoming out team, and suddenly they start making the playoffs, and Fitzgerald gets his opportunities to actually do some things, which was great.
Carson Palmer was on pace to be an MVP in 2015 too, which is crazy to think about.
In 2015?
Yeah.
I mean, he did have a really good year in 15, but I mean, Cam Newton took that award by storm. Also, If the
But
Patriots, I will die on this hill. If the Patriots that year did not get hit by the injury bug, they're 16-0. Tom Brady's an MVP, and they finished the complete season.
yeah, the Pats were very dangerous that year.
Yeah.
But that Denver defense was just insane too. I mean, sorry to get off topic about Larry Fitzgerald, but that Denver defense hit Brady 20 times. That offensive line could not stop a nosebleed.
Yeah. Their offensive line sucked that year because they lost Nate Solder early on. But they also lost Edelman for most of the year.
Yep.
Gronk was clearly playing hurt during that game in the AFC Championship. And they still were a missed Steven Gostowski extra point from winning that game. I mean, he never misses extra points.
Yeah.
So, I will always forever be grateful for that Patriots dynasty, but there's no denying that they left some meat on the bone.
They
2017, 2015, 2011, 2007, 2006. God, so many years they could have won the Super Bowl, but didn't.
Literally. All right, read off the last one.
All right, here we go. Colin Ray said Megatron. So we go from one legend wide receiver to another. And when this guy was healthy and on the field and had Matthew Stafford throwing to him, this guy was a beast. And I would also like to point out all of the best single wide receiver seasons have come from Matthew Stafford throwing to him.
Yep.
Cooper Kupp. Right now it's Puka Nacua. And on top of that, you also have Calvin Johnson.
Calvin Johnson, top 5 wide receiver of all time.
And I don't mean to turn this into Tom Brady again, but isn't it crazy how during the span of his career, this guy had a Hall of Fame career, retired, and then was inducted in the Hall of Fame in the same stretch that he was still in the league.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. I mean, Calvin Johnson, it's funny because Larry Fitzgerald and Calvin Johnson are two players that get debated about a lot of who was better. And it's just funny that we just happen to have them back to back here, and two guys that had pretty similar but not so similar careers. Both, Larry Fitzgerald at least made the playoffs a couple times. Calvin Johnson only made the playoffs once, sadly, because of him being on those terrible Lions teams. Top of that, Calvin Johnson's career getting cut short, early retirement, whereas Larry Fitzgerald played for a very long time. Wish were able to see more Calvin Johnson, but I feel like it could have just ended up turning out to be more of a Julio Jones situation at the end of the day for him.
Sure, but if you remember, it was 2015, right, when he retired that offseason. He was going to be a free agent, and I want him to be a Patriot.
Everyone wants everyone to be on their team, all right?
I don't care. I want him to be a Patriot. I think a lot about what could have been, and that is one of them, because we saw what Randy Moss did. Give me Calvin Johnson with Tom Brady. Give me Megatron. They're winning back to back to back to back.
You're not wrong, but that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. New episode coming out on Friday at 5. New episodes out on Tuesdays at 7:30, Fridays at 5 Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and so much more. Be sure to follow our Instagram, Fumblerooski_podcast, and our TikTok, Fumblerooski Pod, to keep up with our podcast and the latest coverage on the NFL. Chris Costich, Adam Wright, we thank you for listening to us. Adam, you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You as well, man.
Thanks, man. But we will see you on Friday. Over and out.